This video will show you an easy way to do figure proportions using simple fractions and the height of the head. One thing that people often tell me when I first tell them that I'm an art teacher is they say, "That's cool, but I can't draw. I can only draw stick figures." Well, what if there was a way to make your stick figure but take that concept and make your figures instantly better? That's what I'm going to show you today. So first I'm going to mark out two marks that are showing me the top of the head and the bottom of the feet. And I'm using this mannequin to demonstrate these concepts. Keep in mind the mannequin and my drawing are not to scale. Now I'm going to find halfway between the top of the head and the bottom of the feet. And that is actually where the bottom of the hips sit. So that's halfway between the top of the head and the bottom of the feet. Now I'm going to find halfway between the top of the head and the hips. So you can also think of that as a quarter of the way down. And what that part is that is the chest. So the chest is about a quarter of the way between the hips and the top of the head. I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom, halfway between the hips and the bottom of the feet. So 3/4 of the way down, that's the knees. And I have 4 equal sections, so it's in quarters. And now I'm going to take each of those quarters and split them in half, so that will give me 1/8. So halfway between the top of the head and the chest, that is actually the bottom of the chin. So this tells us that the whole body is about 8 head heights high. So you can fit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 head heights from the top of the head to the bottom of the feet. Now between the chest and the hips, so that's the same thing as 3/8 of the way down, that is where my navel or my belly button is going to be, and also when we put the arms on there, that's where the elbows line up with. Now halfway between the hips and the knees, this is the midpoint of our thigh. We can also think of it as 5/8 of the way down. And when we get the arm on there, this is going to be where the fingertips rest. They line up with the midpoint of the thigh. And then for our last one, halfway between the knees and the bottom of the feet, so this is 7/8 of the way down, this is the bottom of our calf muscle. So now I have my fractions all blocked out, and I'm going to start filling this up with the actual features of the figure. So I'm going to grab a different color marker just so it's a little bit easier to see here. So let's define this head a little bit more, put a little neck on there. Now the chest and the hips that make up the torso, this is kind of the hinge of the spine that makes a lot of the different movements. So I kind of like to block those out as two sort of shapes, especially when you get into posing. This is important to keep in mind. Just extend those lines out a little bit so it's easier to see what goes where. There's the navel, so we can put the belly button on. Here's going to be the hips. It's the bottom of the hips. Remember, that's halfway down. Then we're going to draw, I like to draw circles to indicate any joints. So that's where the limbs would move. So those 2 circles are the hips. These 2 circles are the knees. And then the different parts of the leg come out of that. That would be the joints of the ankles. Then I'm going to back up to the top and do the joints for my shoulders and my elbow, which remember lines up with the navel. And then the fingertips line up midway, mid-thigh. So same thing on the other side. And here it is. This is pretty much my glowed up stick figure. It's like the skeleton. And now we're going to go ahead and bulk this up and actually add the outline. So notice we're working from the inside out, not from the outline in. So I'll grab a different color again so it's easier to see. And I'm just going to kind of go around this glowed up stick figure skeleton that I made and start defining a little bit more. And go right around, kind of give an outline. And you know, everybody's proportions are a little bit different. This is just kind of the standard, and when we get into modifying that, that's when our characters and our figures really start to have personality to them. So again, just kind of the basics. Always starting from the basics. But the key is to go from the inside and work your way out. And then I'm going to erase my guidelines just so you can see what the figure looks like without all that extra stuff going on. And then when it really starts to come to life here is when you add the clothing and accessories and details that sort of make it more of a unique figure and not just a generic figure. So in 5 minutes, I've gone from very basic stick figure to something that has a little bit of a personality and some proportion to it. But think of, we're not very often posed static like that. So what I want you to think about when you're creating movement and poses, like maybe this person's lounging, it's the same idea, same proportions, but now we're just kind of changing the direction that they're going in to show the pose. It's a cool like skateboard move, maybe something like that. There's the figure. Again, working from the inside out, same concept. This figure's maybe running or walking or frolicking away. And same idea there. And remember that idea that I told you about it hinging from the hips and the chest, those red lines there. That is often helpful to keep in mind when you're trying to get a sense of action or a sense of movement in your work. So that's getting a little bit more advanced, but that is something we can start thinking about too as we're posing our figures. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope that this is an easy way for you to see how to make your figure drawings much more doable, accessible, and manageable. Thanks for watching.